Hey there everyone, John V here from PhoneArena. You're watching our in-depth video review of the Verizon Galaxy Nexus. It's finally here, available right now through Verizon for a 2-year contract price of $299.99, so pretty much in line with some of the other flagship devices out there. It's following after things like the Motorola Droid Razr and also the HTC Resound, so this is probably another offering that's going to probably circle around your head and wondering if it's worth the device. It features things like a gorgeous 4.65-inch Super AMOLED HD display, 720p, and also has Verizon's 4G LTE connectivity, so you know it's going to get fast data speeds. So it's been worth the wait, so we're going to find out, is it the right one for you? So before we dive into the design, you could probably tell there are some blemishes on the device already, just because we dropped it by accident from a good height and it did incur some of that stuff, but it's plastic, so it's going to show it nonetheless. So as far as overall looks, it's pretty much intact with the GSM version that we checked out not too long ago. The only difference is that it is slightly thicker at 0.37 inches thick. It looks pretty consistent throughout, and there's a little bit towards the bottom, a little bit of hump, but you don't notice that much. Still fairly streamlined by today's standards, and it utilizes that typical Samsung build to it, mostly all plastic handset. Yeah, this texture back cover, which gives it a little bit of rubbery feel and a good grip in the hand. It's very clean looking, which is nice, that we like about that, and just because there are no capacitive buttons whatsoever on the front, that you could tell here. And it's very lightweight too, and not as wide, thankfully, because of the very thin bezels around the display, and doesn't feel as large compared to some other handsets with similar sized displays. Overall, it's a very conventional looking design. So US consumers already have had a taste of 720p displays like the one that's found on the HTC Resound and the LG Nitro HD, but with the Samsung Galaxy Nexus, it's a 4.65-inch panel in there, and it's an HD Super AMOLED display. Not a Super AMOLED Plus, just a Super AMOLED. 720 by 1280 pixels. When you break it down, do the math, it equals to a pixel density of 316 ppi, which produces some very crisp, legible looking text, even for things like the web browser. When you're in a zoomed out view, you're still able to make out even the fine text, and despite even though it uses the Pentel matrix arrangement, which you really don't notice unless you look at stuff with a white background, it's still nonetheless very detailed. And seeing that it is a Super AMOLED panel in play, it has some gorgeous looking colors, wide viewing angles, and it's very easy to view even in outdoor conditions, and it's by far also one of the attractive things about the handset. As we mentioned already, there are no capacitive Android buttons whatsoever, so the only thing you see on the front here is just the front-facing 1.3 megapixel camera, which you could use for video chat and also shooting self-portraits. Just like Samsung's Galaxy S2 family, the Galaxy Nexus has some really easy to feel out physical buttons, like the volume rocker on the left edge and also dedicated power button on the right. They stick out and they have a very springy response when you press them down. Also on the right edge, you probably could tell there are 3 pins right here, which are used for some sort of dock connection. Rather than finding on the top edge, you have the 3.5mm headset jack on the bottom edge, along with the micro USB port for charging and data connectivity, and you also have the microphone as well. Above all, the most satisfying thing about the Verizon Galaxy Nexus is, of course, that it offers the most up-to-date Android smartphone experience, which is Android 4.0 Ice Cream Sandwich, and it builds upon the foundational aspects of Android as a whole. It has a lot of similarities with Honeycomb, so if you use a tablet recently, you're going to be very familiar. If not, if you've been using a gingerbread device, a little bit of a learning curve, but at its core, it's very familiar, to tell you the truth. We like the fact that it offers still that level of personalization that you find on any Android-powered smartphone. Specifically, you have a variety of different widgets, some being more useful than others. Very dynamic too, because you could resize them to any length and width. Well, actually, it's most of them, not all of them, but it's nice having that added level of functionality. You have things like the calendar widget there, the clock widget, which has a translucent look to it, your power controls, and a variety of useful ones. Very similar to the ones you find on a Honeycomb tablet. The bottom here, you have your quick launcher for your clock, your phone, your People's application, messaging, and the browser. And the other neat thing about it is that it no longer offers capacitive buttons, as we mentioned, just because the navigational controls are built into the platform itself, the interface. You have the back, you have the home, and you have your quick task menu here. So for multitasking, it's great because you could get in and out of a variety of different applications very quickly. Quite useful too. If you do swipe down anytime, you gain access to the notifications panel, so you have everything at your disposal. And from here, you could gain access also to the Android settings menu. Now, with the Android buttons, it stays stationary down there. But if you happen to go to other programs, not all programs, you'll see them go away. Especially things like the gallery, when you're viewing a picture or watching a video, they go away. So you get the full fidelity of the display as you're viewing content, which is nice. Hopefully, more developers take advantage of that with third-party applications. When you get to the home, the app panel, nothing really different. It still has that usual practical approach to it. It's a grid-like form. We like the transition effects into play, and then on top of that, you gain access to the widgets. It's broken down to two areas, the apps and widgets right there. Very easy. And if you want to change the wallpaper, it's very simple. All you guys do is a long press, and you gain access to that. Being the high-end flagship device, of course it's going to offer a fast processor, and what you do get with the Verizon Galaxy Nexus is a dual-core 1.2 GHz Ti OMAP 4460 processor, and it's coupled with 1 GB RAM. Now on paper that sounds great and fancy, but when it comes to just overall performance, it's not the fastest out there, nor is it the most fluid, but it's definitely reasonable. You tell with a live wallpaper activated, it is a little bit taxing to the handset. You could also notice that it's just a little bit choppy with its movement. It doesn't have that fluidity that we like. But when you switch it over to a static wallpaper, its performance is pretty much night and day, and you'll quickly see that here. Switch it over to a static wallpaper, it's better able to actually track the movement of our finger, and you can see it's pretty instantaneous in just keeping up with our movement. Other operations, kinetic scrolling, opening up applications, and even pinch zooming, very responsive and quick, and for the most part, it is very respectable. We've always been fans of the email experience that you find on any Android device, and it's pretty much the same here with the Galaxy Nexus on Ice Cream Sandwich. So whether you're using the Android email application or Gmail one, they're both almost the same. And you can tell it just displays all your email, and from here you could select one. Now with the email application, you could actually pinch zoom, so which is nice, and pinch and also zoom out. But you can't get the full view of the email. You could still move around to get a better view of it. With the Gmail app, unfortunately, though, there's one thing that we don't like about it. It works just in the same manner. You have your emails, you have all the features of Gmail, you could archive, and also you have threaded conversations. But the issue that we have with the Gmail one here is that you can't pinch zoom, nor can you zoom out, so you don't get the full view of the entire email. If there's a lot of pictures and whatnot, you gotta just keep on kinetic scrolling. It's not bad, especially with a large display, but it'd been just nice to have that on there. Plus, with a graciously sized display, the messaging experience is really easy on the fingers here, and with the keyboard, its layout's very large and spacious, so we rarely have any accidental presses. It's very similar to the stock Android Gingerbread keyboard. You could tell with the top row you have access to numbers by doing a long press, which is really nice. If you want punctuations, you got to go to a different layout here. It's not that bad at all, but it's also very responsive, quick, large size. So even if you use a landscape portrait, it's going to be very easy. As a whole, Ice Cream Sandwich has a very clean look to it, very pleasing to the eyes. It's most evident with the contacts application. You could see it very visibly right here. You have just like your names and also the photos of the individuals. When you select someone, it displays all the pertinent information, of course. So you have the ability to sync your Google contacts, but interestingly enough, it doesn't offer syncing with stuff like Facebook or Twitter natively. In order to gain access to that, you're going to have to download the respective applications. Packing 4G LTE connectivity, the Verizon Galaxy Nexus is especially a joy when it comes to web browsing, just because you get fast data speeds with Verizon's connection here. We just noticed that with upload speeds, they tend to be just slightly slower than some other 4G LTE smartphones that we're testing out with Verizon, but it's not that bad at all, still very fast. And as far as just the overall web browsing experience, it's very good, of course, being a high-end smartphone. And the only thing worth noting is that it lacks Flash support right now, but Adobe is said to be in the works of getting Flash with Ice Cream Sandwich. But you can tell with pinch gestures, kinetic scrolling, stuff like that, its navigational control is very responsive and fluid. And the other neat thing that we like about it is that you have the ability to actually switch between tabs very quickly. And if you want to open something in another window, all you gotta do is just do your usual thing, just do a long press, and you have all that options available for you. So as a whole, it's very usable. Thankfully, Google has updated the music player interface with Ice Cream Sandwich. So if you're moving up from a gingerbread device, you'll notice a difference. But if you've used the honeycomb device, it's going to be basically the same. Overall, similarities with it. So here's the interface. You could swipe over to go to different tabs. They're categorized to whatever you like. When you're playing a song, it has the usual stuff: the album cover, the track information, on-screen controls. It just lacks the 3D carousel thing that honeycomb offers, but nevertheless, still nice looking indeed. If you exit back out, it'll play in the background. Of course, you have the mini player, and if you turn off the device and turn it back on, you have also the mini player on board directly at the lock screen, so you can still control its functionality. As far as the audio quality, it's decent, neutral tones, average volumes, not the strongest, tell you the truth, but fortunately, it does offer a variety of different equalizer settings to better fine-tune it to the specific genre of music that you're listening to. Well, if you love watching videos, it's going to be especially gratifying with the Verizon Galaxy Nexus just because of the spacious display and, of course, that HD Super AMOLED panel that it employs. The video we have here is encoded in MPEG-4 1920 by 1080 resolution, so it's 1080p video, moving very flawlessly, has a good rate to it, no choppiness or slowdown, and on top of that, thanks to the HD Super AMOLED panel in play, it produces some distinctive colors that really make it a very engaging experience, and overall, something you'll want to use if you have a long trip. One of the cool new features of Ice Cream Sandwich is the Face Unlocked feature, which turns on the camera to recognize your face to unlock it. If it fails to do that, you'll be asked to put in either your numeric password as a backup or even a pattern one. So we'll quickly show you that here. So turn it on, it powers on the device. And as long as you have adequate lighting, it'll unlock it for you. If not, as we mentioned, it's going to ask you to put in your numeric password or even your pattern one. Again, we're treated to a very clean-looking interface with the camera application. It follows that theme that we find with Ice Cream Sandwich. Just only on the right-hand side, you have most of the options. You have the shutter key, a digital zoom control. Press the button down there, you gain access to additional settings like white balance, the exposure, scenery, and also resolution. It's very minimal when it comes to manual settings, but should appease most basic users out there. When it comes to capturing video, very similar interface. Uncluttered, as we mentioned, you have the white balance, you have things like the scenery modes, and you also have these cool effects that you could also do, and up to 1080p video. But the other neat thing is being able to capture panoramic photos. Very easy, just to make sure you have a very steady hand when you do it. So you're probably wondering the obvious, whether or not the 5-megapixel camera on the handset takes some good looking shots. Well, fortunately, if you're using it primarily for outdoor situations that are in sunny conditions, then yes, they're more than good enough for 4x6 printouts. It captures some average looking details, color reproduction's neutral, though it kind of struggles with dynamic range. It tends to overexpose the shots, and when it comes to indoors or low lighting situations, it's pretty mediocre with its overall quality. Kind of diminished. You have some digital noise and also some soft tones, and the LED flash isn't potent at all. It's good up to 3 feet away. Anything more than that, it tends to produce some washed out looking colors. Unfortunately, we're a bit underwhelmed with the handset's 1080p high-definition video capture. For a flagship device like that, it fails to capture our attention. Specifically, it captures at the rate of 24 frames per second, so it is a little bit choppy, whereas a lot of other devices nowadays offer a 29-30 frames per second capture rate. Details are average, good color production, but it's pretty much unusable in low lighting conditions. There's just a lot of artifacting, pixelated, diminished tones, and doesn't look pretty at all. Using the handset to place voice phone calls, we're greeted with a pleasant experience just because with the earpiece itself, voices are natural and distinct, very clear and audible, but the overall volume is a little bit on the average side, not the strongest out there, but nevertheless very easy to make out. On the other hand, our callers did say our voice has this a little bit of a robotic tone to it, but nothing all that bad, still audible, and when we switch to using the speakerphone, it just has a squeaky tone with it. By far, the biggest frustration that we have with the Samsung Galaxy Nexus is its weak signal strength. It's just something that stands out a lot, and we notice it happening quite often. It drops 4G LTE connectivity, goes down to 3G, and sometimes it loses the connection entirely, and it takes a good amount of time to reestablish that connection, and it's very annoying to tell you the truth, especially when we're even outside, outdoors, or even close to a window. We just notice that it's having a lot of issues as far as just retaining that 4G LTE connection. Luckily, though, it didn't drop any voice phone calls during our time testing it out. Meanwhile, another concern of ours is just battery life, especially when taking into consideration the signal strength issues that we notice with data connectivity, so it's going to zap it up even more. It packs a pretty hefty battery inside, but in our usage, we're able to get 10 hours of normal usage on a single charge. It's not surprising at all, just because we notice that a lot of Verizon's 4G LTE devices are usually found in that range, but when we switch it to 3G connectivity only, we're able to get roughly 15 hours of usage with it. It's a lot better, but it's still something you're going to charge as much as you can and whenever you can. It clearly took Verizon quite some time to release the Samsung Galaxy Nexus, but to tell you the truth, it is worth every penny that its $300 on-contract price is, just for the simple fact that it is the very first Android 4.0 ice cream sandwich in the market in the US and on Verizon's lineup. It's the one standout thing that we love about it. It is very complete right off the bat, and we like how it meshes the smartphone and even the tablet platforms together. Very refined, and knowing that it's going to receive future updates down the road relatively quickly, it's going to improve the functionality and overall experience. But besides that, as far as design goes, it's not the prettiest thing out there. It's a little bit more on the conventional side, but it's more than admirable for this type of device. The other concerns that we have is just simply signal strength connections here. It's rather weak with the device, and it's the eyesore that we notice about the handset. And of course, battery life, it's not the best, but it's actually expected just because it is 4G LTE connection, so you get those lightning fast data speeds. But when you compare it to like the Droid Razr, the HTC Resound, it has its pros and cons. One being the Android 4.0 ice cream sandwich experience. You have the 720p display, gorgeous looking, Super AMOLED one, of course. So it does appeal in that way. But it's just a matter of opinion at that point. It's a respectable offering, something that's gonna get the latest and greatest updates right away versus some other handsets out there. And right now, it is the handset to beat. So if you want to learn more about the Samsung Galaxy Nexus for Verizon, you can check out our website, PhoneArena.com. As always, this is John V. Thanks for watching, everyone.